guys, it's Kevin in my review for the new Netflix masterpiece, Father of the Year. And Father of the Year, what this movie is essentially about is we have these two fathers. One is this loudmouth alcoholic, and the other one is more of a chill father, basically. But there are these two guys, and they're fresh out of college, and basically they make this bet to see which one of their fathers is tougher, because they both think they have like the worst father possible. So basically they want their fathers to compete in this sort of race, and they're gonna see which one of their fathers is worse. Along the way they deal with tons of other shits, and that's really all I'm gonna say. So, Father of the Year. Obviously, right off the bat, I was not at all looking forward to this movie. It is another Netflix film, and it's a comedy. That's always a bad sign. Netflix is yet to make really any good comedies. I can really only think of a few offhand that were genuinely good. Most of their comedies, though, suck. Most of them are unbearable, and they're some of the worst things they put out. I wouldn't say they're the worst. The worst are, like, the sci-fi films, for sure, but Netflix is definitely not someone I hold a high standard to with anything, let alone comedies. So, yeah, I really was not looking forward to this at all. You guys know I made that joke in my Kissing Booth review that most of the really shitty comedies that we typically see in theaters are now coming to Netflix, and Father of the Year is the epitome of what I said. This film is awful. It's one of the grossest, unnecessary, and just unnecessarily raunchy things I have seen in a very long time that virtually does not have much going on, and we're just getting to right now, starting off with the cast. So, the acting here right off the bat is almost across the board terrible. There really are not too many things I liked in this movie. There really are not too many things I can praise in this movie, and the acting certainly isn't one of them. Let's first talk about David Spade, because most people, when it comes to David Spade, that's immediately going to be a turnoff, and from this movie, you can definitely tell why. Not only is David Spade so obnoxious and so over the top in this movie, but this is probably one of the worst roles I've ever seen from him, and that's saying a lot, because almost every single role I've seen David Spade in, he's terrible. I really can't recall of a David Spade character that's not from Hotel Transylvania that I actually liked. But this is easily one of the worst. This guy, he's just a loudmouth. He's doing the most disgusting things. He's saying the most raunchy things possible, and I just could not stand this character. And it seemed like he was just doing the same shtick over and over again. And you can very much tell that this is a Happy Madison type character, because this guy, he's just so over the top. He, like I said, he's a loudmouth, he's drunk all the time, he's doing the dumbest shit when we're introduced to him. He's in like a pool or whatever, and he's just really obnoxious to watch. He's one of the worst lead characters I have seen in a very long time, and this is definitely one of the worst performances of the entire year. I absolutely despised him in this movie. And then Nat Faxon, while I don't think he's on the level of Spade, I still really could not stand him at all. This guy, he's supposed to be like this scientist, and the whole movie he just seemed bored. Like the whole movie he was just basically talking like this. And I know that's how Nat Faxon does talk, and I've seen Nat Faxon in some things I like here and there. Like I really liked him in the show Married and things like that, but in this movie, he just seemed really bored, and it just did not really seem like he wanted to be there. He's supposed to be, like, the more decent of the fathers, I guess, but he still does a lot of really gross shit, and the chemistry between these two is really not there at all. I really did not understand what the contrast was there, because they both seem pretty terrible to me, and I really could not stand either of them. And then the rest of the cast here is kind of whatever. Joey Bragg is incredibly miscast in this movie, because you look at this guy and sure, you see him as this nerdy kid. He's supposed to be like this nerdy kid that didn't really have much of a life, that is very much, you know, he's very reclusive in that way. But this guy just takes it to another level that is almost unwatchable. I mean, there's literally a scene where he doesn't want to swim. He goes to like a high school dance for some reason. I just could not stand this character, and I thought he was way too over the top throughout the movie, and it wasn't nerdy in the sense where it's like, you know, it's nerdy but you can get behind it. Like, I am a pretty nerdy person, but I still can function as a person. This guy literally cannot function, and I really could not stand him here. Matt Shively, I really did not like either. The only actress I will actually give credit in this movie is Bridgit Mendler. Bridgit Mendler, I've not seen her in anything since like the Good Luck Charlie days, where honestly I think she was fantastic in both that and Lemonade Mouth. But she's actually really good here. I do think she did a pretty good job in this movie, because whenever Mendler would show up, the movie suddenly wasn't as bad. I suddenly got this sense of life. I got this sense of, okay, maybe we're actually going somewhere. Maybe this movie's actually going to get better. But then she would disappear and the movie would go back to just being a really stupid joke after joke comedy. And when Mendler showed up, it really was not as bad. I think she did a good job, you know, with this film. You are rooting for her and Joey Bragg to get together. You do care about their relationship, and I think overall she did do a good job. It's just everyone else is just pretty much unbearable here, and compared to her, there's really nothing else to really praise in the acting department. I thought everyone was really bad here, honestly. Now let's get to the directing and the writing, because easily that is the biggest problem in this film. Like I said, all the acting is pretty terrible except for Mendler. But again, if you have a good story and, you know, maybe some good direction for me to latch onto, maybe I can get behind it. No, the directing right off the bat, this is everything that you expect it to be. It's a Happy Madison film, and it is the epitome of what a Happy Madison film usually is. It's a joke after joke, mean-spirited comedy. There's virtually nothing really to it, and the comedy here just falls so incredibly flat. So many jokes just go on, and you just don't know when they're going to quit. It really does not work at all. I really cannot recall one time I really was actually laughing in this movie. Maybe I chuckled a few times, but I really can't recall of one time where I was actually laughing. I thought the directing was very much lacking there, and the drama as well. When there are some heartwarming moments, when it involves Bridgit Mendler, it works, but when it doesn't, it just falls incredibly flat, and the directing was just really awful here. These characters virtually go through nothing. Like, they start off the movie in one place, and most of them don't really change at all. They don't really go through much of anything, and that is mainly due to the writing in this movie, which I think is some of the laziest I have seen for a comedy in a while. This is one of those comedies where it would come out in the middle of the summer, nobody would see it in theaters, and everyone would hail as one of the worst movies in theaters. And at least I can give it this, it did not come out into theaters, thank God, but it's still an awful movie. I'm not at all excusing the writing here. The writing is just so awful and lazy. I mean, like I said, the plot that I gave you, that is a very loose plot, because besides that, there's really not much of anything going on in this movie. It's literally just joke after joke after joke, and they're not at all funny. There's so much disgusting stuff throughout this movie. There's literally a scene involving Nat Faxon and this, like, these like, hairy guy's nipples, basically, and he's trying to, like, rub cream on them or whatever. I don't even remember what he was trying to do, but this scene goes on for like a solid 2 minutes. I'm not even joking, and it was just unbearable to watch, and it wasn't one of those things where it actually had some substance to the story. No, it's just there because, oh, nipples, isn't that funny? Doesn't that really make you laugh? And it's like, no, it's disgusting, just go away. And there are so many things like that throughout this movie. There's another scene involving you know, there's a whole subplot involving this old lady, and at first I'm like, okay, maybe she's gonna go somewhere really interesting, because you find out this old lady basically, like, buried someone, and you're kind of, like, creeped out by her. But then this storyline involves her and Matt Shively, and where they end up going with it, holy shit. I mean, I have not seen something this disgusting and this tasteless in quite a long time. I don't want to get into what ends up happening between these two, but I really wish they did not go there, and I really wish I did not have to see it, because where they end up going with it, it's just disgusting. And I don't understand what's so funny about it. I was just honestly really grossed out while watching, and there are many scenes like that throughout this movie. And like I said, the whole thing with them wanting to fight, there's really like no build up to it at all. The contrast in parenting styles, I mean, Nat Faxon, he just tells a lot of really weird, awful stories about things that he's done, and it just makes you really hate the guy. David Spade is basically just a man-child who constantly gets himself involved in the craziest of situations. One of them involving that old lady and Matt Shively towards the end. Again, it was absolutely disgusting, but it seems like the movie, it doesn't really care about the characters, it doesn't care about the story. It just cares about how far can we go with the jokes, how far can we go with the humor. It's so infantile in that way, and it's just very hard to really get behind the writing at all, because again, it's basically non-existent. The only time, and again, I hate reiterating this, but the only time there's actually solid writing is when Bridgit Mendler's character shows up. The arc between her and Joey Bragg, it's not bad. These two used to date in high school, and they kind of went their separate ways, and you see them start to reconnect throughout this movie, but even at that, it's incredibly rushed because she's not in the movie a lot. She's only there every so often, and when they're starting to connect, it's incredibly predictable that they're gonna end up reconnecting. Two, it just does not feel that natural. It doesn't really feel like it's earned anything, and you really don't understand, you really don't feel like Joey Bragg has changed at all. If anything, he gets worse as this movie goes on. There's literally a scene where they go to like a high school dance for some reason, and I really did not understand it. I just thought the writing was just so piss poor. It was so non-existent here, and I really could not stand the writing here. The cinematography as well is whatever. I guess it's standard. There's really not much to say about it. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's certainly not the best thing either. The score to this movie is fine, and then the editing. This movie is so poorly paced. There's so many times where we will cut from a really nice, heartwarming Bridgit Mendler scene, and we'll cut to something really disgusting, and the editing is so inconsistent here. I really could not stand the editing at all. Again, it really does exhibit the biggest problem with this movie. It's just mean-spirited, and that's really all this is. Again, I'm sorry I keep repeating it over and over again, but that's really all this movie is. It's just a mean-spirited, disgusting comedy. It's basically, you know, just joke after joke. It has some of the most disgusting and vile characters I have seen all year. Its plot is virtually non-existent unless Mendler shows up. It has a very badly miscasted Joey Bragg as the nerdy kid. It has David Spade in one of his worst roles yet. It's one of the worst Netflix comedies I have seen. I have seen people complain about When We First Met, and honestly, after watching this movie, I don't know how you can say that movie is worse than this. At least that movie, regardless if you liked it or not, at least that has a plot. At least it does have characters. At least the characters grow throughout this movie. This movie, there's virtually no plot. The characters go through almost nothing, and it's really just concerned about joke after joke. There really is not anything to this movie. Guys, Father of the Year is one of the worst movies of the year. It's one of the worst films that Netflix has ever done. There's virtually nothing good about it minus Bridgit Mendler. There's really nothing else I can say about it. It's just a really awful comedy that unfortunately I did have the misfortune of watching, and I'm definitely going to give Father of the Year overall a D-. Seriously, guys, just skip this one. I know that I go on and on about how awful Netflix is, but this is literally one of the lowest efforts I have ever seen from them. I have no idea why they are signing on to this deal. I mean, I know this is a Happy Madison film and they have a deal with them or whatnot, but seriously, get out of this deal immediately. It is not doing you any favors, and, you know, if Netflix was making quality content besides Happy Madison, that'd be a different story, but Netflix is looked as a laughing stock right now, and if they don't get out of this deal, it's just going to continue to plummet them more and more further down the rabbit hole, and This film very much does show that. But either way, guys, in my review of Father Year, if you did see this movie, I'm sorry. I really wish you didn't because, like I said, it is so disgusting and so unbearable to watch. But what did you think of it if you did see it? But that's it for my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which stay tuned because later tonight, I'm actually seeing both Teen Titans Go to the Movies and Mission Impossible Fallout. I'm doing a double feature of both, so I will probably have both reviews up later tonight. Definitely look forward to that. But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.